Now, with the dawn of the new year, we seem to have brought a lot of problems forward from the last year. Drawing back to a major issue of last year, the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. Of course, the signing of this agreement was a controversial one, following which the President appointed a committee to probe the Singapore-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. Of course, this has come back into public discourse with the release of this report. The report compiled by the Presidential Committee appointed to probe the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. Of course, this report has provided many answers to a statement issued by Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade in the day, Malik Samaravikrama, a statement that he made in Parliament during the debate on the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. Let's first take a look at the statement that he made.
MPSB was also there. Those have been done. It was presented again on the 16th. I have the cabinet paper. I asked the Attorney General. He said there is no impediment. File a case and see what happens.
Now that was a statement made by Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade Malik Samaravikrama when the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement was taken up for debate in Parliament last year. Chaturanga, with the release of this new report by the Presidential Committee that was appointed to probe the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, what are the answers that have been provided in the statement?
Yes, Shalan, before we go into the details that this report has uncovered, I want to mention one important factor to you and our viewers. It is the fact that what we are talking about is a free trade agreement between two countries. It is between our country and Singapore, something that is extremely serious for the future investments, future economy, future financial management of our country. With that in mind, let me draw the attention to what we have behind here. This is the document sent by the Attorney General's Department. Now, you saw Malik Samaravikrama, the Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade, saying that there will be the Attorney General has actually approved this free trade agreement. There was no legal impediment is what he said. Now this is the letter that has been sent to the Ministry, to the Ministry Secretary, saying that there is no legal impediment. Now, as I mentioned, Shalan, this is a legal document. This is something that is serious.
This is something that is going to impact the country for generations to come.
100%, Shalan. Now, who should sign this document? The Attorney General. This is from the Attorney General's Department. But who has signed this document is the problem here. It has been signed by Senior State Counsel Nirmalan Vigneshwaran.
That begs the question, Chaturanga, who is Nirmalan Vigneshwaran?
Before we go there, the Senior Additional Solicitor General for the Attorney General, the person who should also be placing his or her signature on this document, has not placed this signature. We only see the signature of Nirmalan Vigneshwaran. Again, we are talking about a free trade agreement between two countries, and we see the signature of a Senior State Counsel. As you mentioned, who is this Nirmalan Vigneshwaran, the Senior State Counsel? He is a person who has been sitting on the subcommittee on trade remedies, a person who has been sitting on the committee stage discussions of the Singapore-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. You can see his name here at one time, and on the other instance, he was also sitting on the committee on legal affairs. So he has been a person who has been involved in this free trade agreement.
So he is a member of the negotiating committee for the Sri Lanka-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, and he has approved this on behalf of the Attorney General under the Attorney General's Department.
Yes, Shala. Now again, there is a problem with the dates as well. We should keep our viewers informed about it. The cabinet meeting that was held was on the 9th of January 2018, where this was called. The cabinet said the Attorney General's clearance is needed for this to move forward. The letter was sent on the 15th of January 2018. This letter was sent on the 15th of January 2018. However, the letter requesting the Attorney General's approval was sent on a later date, 17th of January 2018.
But how can this happen, Chaturanga?
There seems to be the assumption that Chitrangani Vijayawardhana's secretary to, Chandani Vijayawardhana's secretary to the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade has in fact sent a letter, but that is not revealed in the Presidential Commission expert report. There is one more very important point that comes out through all of this, Shalan. While the Committee of Experts also raises the point that a person who is in the TNC, the Technical Negotiations Committee, is in fact signing this document from the Attorney General's Department is problematic. That is mentioned by the team of experts. What does the Minister, Malik Samaravikrama, decide to do now with this information? The President, of course, of the committee, and the report has been now sent to the President. the minister in charge decides to appoint another committee of experts to see the recommendations of this report, which has been already compiled by a team of experts. To consider
the recommendations made by this report and present a further report on the matter.
Yes, they are making a committee on top of this committee that has already submitted.
When will the creation of these committees end?
We are yet to see what will happen to this Singapore-Sri Lanka free trade agreement.
Also, Chaturanga, speaking about the names that have cropped up with this Sri Lanka-Singapore free trade agreement, it brings to mind another massive corruption scandal in the history of our country.
If you're talking about the bond scam, before we go there are several more things that we can discuss about when we talk about this minister in charge and the ministers as a whole, Shalan, from the past year. We have seen several instances where the people cannot no longer place their trust in the cabinet of ministers.
Chaturanga, speaking of trust is a very vital component when it comes to administration, when it comes to electing public representatives.
Governance.
We are electing our public representatives based on the trust that we have in them. It begs the question this new year, can we trust the members that we have elected to Parliament?
Yes, Shalan, one last point before we go. We remember the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, how it came to be. We remember how the Provincial Council Elections Amendment Act was passed in Parliament. We also remember what happened to the bond scam report. There were rumours, there were allegations that the Bond Commission report did not directly go from the Commission to the President, that it took a detour somewhere else. Now the people who were in jail are also released on bail. We are yet to see what will happen. If this is the way they deal with massive agreements that impact on the economy of the country, on the management, financial management of the country, if this is the way they deal with these things.
You were speaking of the unfolding of the Bond Commission report and the incidents surrounding that, Chaturanga, and I believe you missed one point. The chief suspect in the bond scam is still at large.
If this is the way they go into deals with countries that do not send us the fugitives, people who have made mistakes, done wrongdoings here in our country, if this is the way they deal with things, God bless Sri Lanka in the new year.
Yes, we will continue to keep you updated on the unfoldings of this corruption as well as other corruptions that may occur this new year. Do stay tuned to News First.
Both of them were jailed not because of a lawsuit. They were in remand custody for investigation purposes. I saw many people blaming the courts. It has been a year since the Presidential Commission was appointed and they have failed to file a case in courts. There still isn't a court case over the bond scam. The governor of the central bank is at fault for this. The other person who is at fault is the finance minister at the time. That is Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Prime Minister is directly to blame for this. So, do not expect the Prime Minister to be independent in this regard. Why should we expect a thief to carry out independent investigations? The President has stressed that the wrongdoers will be punished. But one has to wonder whether the President will take action against this and punish the Prime Minister.